You can brighten up your guitars without boosting top end. Hello, Bobby Torres of Frightbox Recording here to show you how you could brighten up your heavy guitar tracks without boosting top end. Now, we've all been there. We're listening to our guitar tracks and they just seem like they need a little more bite, a little more clarity, just a little more brightness. And of course, the natural thing to do, you would think, would be to just, boost a little top end on your EQ. And yes, this can work sometimes. I believe that there is a much better way to go about it. In my experience, the less EQing that you do to your heavy guitar tracks, the better your overall mix will be. And the more easily your guitars will fit within the mix and the more natural they'll sound. Okay, so without any further ado, I'm gonna play the audio sample back and then I'll go to dissect exactly how I achieved this bright guitar sound without boosting any top end. Let's check it out. So I'm gonna play it back once more and let's pay close attention to that guitar tone. Let's check it out. My opinion, that's a pretty decent guitar tone. It's nice and crisp. It's bright, but it's not, taking your head off. There's a nice solid low end happening. It's just a nice, well-balanced tone. Now, one of the biggest struggles I hear time and time again is people will send me their mixes and ask me, my guitars sound really muddy. I tried boosting top end and it just made the guitar sound really messy. I don't know what to do. Hopefully after watching this video, you'll have a better understanding on how you can actually brighten up your tone without having to boost top end. So let's look at what's happening in the mix with my guitar tracks. Okay. Super simple. I have a guitar left, guitar right, and a guitar submix. That is it. Now, if you look here, I do have a left DI and a right DI, but they are completely zeroed out. They are not being used in the mix at all. As a matter of fact, my left and right guitar tracks are just rendered versions of my DI tracks loaded with the TSC Audio X50. I'm also using my own custom impulse response, so if you dig the tone in this video, you could download the impulse response for absolutely free. I will leave a link to that right within this video's description. So again, the DI tracks are not being used, but the main guitar tracks are rendered versions of my DI with the amp sim. So just so we don't confuse anything, I'm actually gonna make these DIs inactive right now, and I'm going to remove them from the session. Okay, so now we just have our left guitar, our right guitar, and now our guitar submix. So if you look here, I have absolutely no EQ happening on my guitar tracks themselves. All of my EQing and compression is happening on the guitar submix. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna completely bypass all the plugins that I have on my guitar submix, and I want you to pay close attention to how the guitars now sound within the mix. Let's check it out. Okay, let's listen again with all of my processing. Let's check that out. So to me, with the EQ and the compression that I have on my submix, the guitars just sound way clearer and just less muddy overall. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna completely bypass all the processing that I had, and I'm gonna EQ and recompress these guitars all over again. Okay, so let's hear how these guitars sound in solo. Okay, not bad, just a little boxy. Now, I'm pretty sure that most people that would hear this, the first thing they would do is they'd stick an EQ on and just brighten it. That would be their first instinct. And I take a slightly different approach. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up an EQ. So let's listen to the tracks again. Okay, let's use our high pass filter and get rid of everything below 80 Hertz. So let's hear what the high pass filter did. So as you can tell, it barely has any effect on the tone, but it's creating extra headroom in my mix and it's making room for my kick drum and bass guitar. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna wanna do is use a low pass filter. And I like to low pass my metal guitars at around, 12K. My rule of thumb is that if it's a decent tone at the source, I really don't have to roll off too much top end. To me, this tone is relatively well balanced, so I don't have to do anything crazy like roll it off to 8K or anything like that. To me, 12K sounds like it might be right. Let's check it out. Yeah, it's just taking off the super duper top end just to make room for the cymbals. Okay, but we still have the same problem at hand. The guitar's just not bright enough. So this is what most people would do. Let's check this out. Now in solo, this sounds like it might work. So let's see how it sounds with the rest of the mix. Okay, not terrible, but there's a better way. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that high frequency boost right off, and I'm gonna demonstrate how I go about brightening up the guitars. Let's pay close attention. Okay, super simple. All I had to really do was cut a little bit of the boxiness in the lower mids. Now, a lot of the time, if you're working with a tone that's just a little too dark, it could actually just be a slight buildup of too much lower mid happening. And a simple way to remedy that is just to cut a little bit of it. Now, you don't wanna go crazy with this. You don't wanna cut so much to where your guitar starts to sound very thin, because remember, the meat of your guitar tone is actually in the mid-range. So if you do pull out some lower mids, just pull a very small amount out, because a little goes a long way. Okay, so after the EQ, I like to add some multiband compression. So another thing that could really help clear up your guitar sound is controlling the palm mutes. Now, a standard broadband compressor will react to all frequencies across the whole spectrum. That's why I like to use a multiband compressor. So I'm gonna bypass the low lows, the upper mids, and the top end, and I'm going to set my cutoff frequencies from about 90 hertz to about 250 hertz. So let's now adjust our threshold to where it's only clamping down on the palm mutes. Let's give this a shot. So I don't know about you, but to me, it sounds like it's just cleaning up the low end of the guitar. It's just controlling those palm mutes. So that way the guitar tone is nice and even and will fit into the mix like a glove. So let's hear it in context. Once more. So when you think about it, I did very little, just some high passing, a little bit of low passing, a tiny bit of cutting into lower mids, and some multiband compression just on a small range of frequencies, and our guitar tone is way clearer. And the thing that I really like about this is the guitar sounds nice and natural. It doesn't sound overly hyped or fizzy in the top end. It's just a nice, well-balanced tone that fits right into the mix with ease. So again, if you dug the guitar tone in this video, I will leave a link to the impulse response that I used. Again, it was my own custom impulse response, just loaded into the TSC Audio X50 plugin. And if you're interested in the X50 plugin itself, I will leave a link to it in the video's description as well. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon in order to be notified every time I upload one of my weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. You can both like and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Links are in the description below. Till next time, happy mixing.